So this is my setup for loading a motorcycle, particularly the Honda Grom. Something pretty small, and don't need it to be too heavy duty, but we are planning on taking it. This first trip that we're loaded up for is going to be about 6,000 miles. So picked one up at Harbor Freight, 400-pound capacity. Now the way it's designed from the factory, we did some modifications. The ramp is actually supposed to be laid out right here to be alongside of the bike, but I'm going to store that inside, and I've modified this area to use for an additional tie down. So had to take this notch off, cut this edge off, paint it so it doesn't rust, drilled this out and added an eye bolt for another tie down area. Used one of these little factory ears that came with it to put on the other side. On the front side, where there's the ear on one side, you're supposed to have another one over here, which is the one I put on the back. Again, put super heavy duty eye bolt in here, galvanized so it's not going to rust. And then the hitch itself. The hitch itself had a lot of play in it from the factory. And so what we did was we used a Hitch Tightener. So restricts the movement up and down. There's no slack whatsoever to go up and down. Also helps with the side-by-side, but there's almost no slack left in the side-by-side because the hole that actually went through from the factory, we changed holes. We put this the hitch carrier in, and then we loaded the bike, and then we slid the bike in to where it had a few inches left before it hit the back of the RV or your tailgate, say, in your truck. And then we marked that hole, we marked that on there, and we re-drilled a new hole. So we were actually able to slide it in a couple inches further, which brings the bike closer to the vehicle, which doesn't create so much cantilevered weight. That also allowed us to drill the tighter hole, so the circumference of the new hole is just enough that the pin goes through. I mean, you really got to work it. It just barely slides through, but now that it barely slides through, there's no slack side to side, where from the factory, your pin is always a little bit sloppy in the hole, which creates just a little bit of movement on your normal receiver. But when you've got it cantilevered a couple feet behind you, that little bit of slack turns into a lot of slack. So, yep, modified this for additional tie down. Modified this for a better tie down. Drilled out a new hole to create a tighter fit and to bring it in closer to the vehicle. And put the hitch tightener on, anti-rattle device hitch tightener. So now, I mean, it is just rock solid and it's not going to move at all. As far as tie downs, we're just going to use a couple tie downs, some turnbuckles. I'll show you that in just a second. Okay, so now it's all tied on. You can see what we did was used drove it up. The ramp's going to go in the side compartment. There's a little tire clamp to go to the front. Doesn't do much, but it'll squeeze the tire in place. The tire is actually meant to go in that hole, and that bar that's holding the tire to go through the wheel if you had a bigger bike. This is just going to clamp on the tire just as an additional stabilizer. The side, you've got a turnbuckle that's attached to the eye bolt and up here to the inside of the foot peg. Again, it's close or to the frame because the further out, it's more cantilevered weight, more pressure. The tie down strap is also going to the eye bolt, and then up here to a loop strap. Now, doing it this way, you're securing it pretty tightly to the frame without actually compressing the forks too far. Same setup on the other side. You got another strap coming down, looped around. By the way, these straps, saw them at Harbor Freight the other day for $2 a set, same weight rating that I paid $20 a set for at the local shop. Again, coming down to the eye bolt that was put in versus the those little factory ears. Now the turnbuckle setup on this side, again from the foot peg, going down one to the ear and one over to the eye bolt. So they're all clipped in to to where those can't come off. The straps, if they were to ever come loose, it's more kind of a secondary backup and additional stabilizer. But the bike will hold itself totally in place with just the turnbuckles here to the foot pegs. The straps are additional. If I would have just done the turnbuckles, shook the bike around, you probably could have drove like that. I'm just kind of overkilling it because it's such a long trip. So that's it. That's how I've got it tied in. And it seems way more stable than going to those factory ears, full length out. When I first put it in there and went to the factory hole in the receiver, put the bike on it, tied it down with a couple tie down straps. I mean, it moved all over, rattled around in the hitch. It was just a mess. This is rock solid. Haven't taken it on a long trip yet, but about to. So anyway, that's it. And as far as shaking the bike, I mean, it's not going anywhere. It'll move the RV before it actually moves the bike. Oh, one other bonus deal, not really a bonus, but just kind of obvious if you don't already know. If you run something through your turnbuckles, the excess of the straps that just ran through all the turnbuckles, so they can't vibrate loose over time. They'll be bound up if they were to ever try to come loose. So there you go. There's the setup.